You guys ready for this? You guys ready for the NFL predictions? NFL divisional round predictions? All right, well, here we go. Let's start with the 4:30 game on Saturday. The Houston Texans travel to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. And listen, I love how that Houston defense was able to settle in last week against the Chargers. And, they gave up a couple of field goals, but they bounced back and they just really made it difficult for Justin Herbert and that team to really get anything going. The big difference in this one is that it's going to be in KC. And I was looking up the weather earlier. It's going to be frigid. And by the time the sun is going to set right around 5:30, it is going to be down in the single digits. No, thank you. You won't catch me anywhere near that game. CJ Stroud cannot afford another slow start in this one. He just can't. He can't rely on a recovered fumble, snap, scramble, throw to get him into gear. Joe Mixon is questionable. So, hey, you might need a guy like Dameon Pierce to step up. Remember him? The only way, in my opinion, the Texans can win this game is if they start fast. Hit the Chiefs in the mouth right away. It's been a while since they played in a competitive game, so Houston better make the most of that. If not, I think it's going to be a long, cold, miserable day for DeMeco Ryans and his club. You got Will Anderson, right? That's like your stud on the defensive side. I know you have Danielle Hunter too. I mean, I think he's one of the more underrated players in the entire game. They have guys at every level that can make big plays for this Houston defense. I think they have to start fast, start quickly. Kansas City, they rest their starters, and they had this division and that one seed locked up for a while. So that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to jump on them quickly and hope that they get so far behind that you force them to do something that is uncharacteristic. Turning the football over, having they feel like they have to push the ball down the field, because what they'll do is they'll dink and dunk you, short throws, they'll run the football. Very smart, intelligent football team. We know it's hard to bet against them. And I won't. I mean, I think the Chiefs win this game. They just know how to do it in elements like this against a team that, they have to make so many winning plays. Like, they have to play a near flawless game, I think Houston does, to win this game. Kind of like what we saw from Washington against the Buccaneers. Like, you can't turn the football over, right? You can't have these long, sustained drives. And you got to capitalize if Kansas City does turn the football over. You got to punch it in the end zone. You can't kick field goals. You got to score touchdowns. I think this is one of those weird scores, like 25-12 or something like that. I'm going to go with Kansas City in this one. Let's see. Our guy Hammer says Casey in a tight one as well. And shout out to Lady Evil. Thank you for the kind words. Thanks for coming on, doing your great podcast. I appreciate you. Again, comment, questions, concern, leave them there at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to do my best to answer them for you. All right, let's go to the night game on Saturday night, and that's in Detroit. The Lions host the Washington Commanders. For all the talk about the Bucs and their injuries and players missing games, Detroit fans just laugh. They really do. I mean, it's insane how many players that they've lost on both sides of the ball, and they're still competitive. And you got to show love to head coach Dan Campbell and the coordinators Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, who seem to be on their way out after this season to head coaching jobs of their own. Well-deserved. I mean, you look at the job that Aaron Glenn was able to do against Minnesota. He is such an intelligent guy that has played in this league, and no excuses for him. No excuses for guys being down. He has found a way to take the best player on your offense out of the game. And for many years, that was something that Bill Belichick was doing in New England, right? You'd have these high-flying offenses, and then they go play Bill, and he'd say, okay, you can have this, this, and this, but you're not having that. And Aaron Glenn does something very similar for that Detroit defense. And that's why they're such a tough out. And that's why people look at them and go, yeah, regardless of the injuries, it's tough to pick against them. And you're going to get a big boost on your offense because it looks like David Montgomery is going to be back after that MCL injury about a month ago. They've been Gucci without him because Jahmyr Gibbs is such a dynamic running back. They're the best 1-2 punch in all of football. I think they find a way to control this game. I do think Jaden Daniels plays well, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Lions win a shootout 38-24. keep an eye out for David Montgomery on the short line, right? Those are the short, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 goal line situations. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, will take the lion's share of the offense, but getting David Montgomery involved, he's just a different type of back. A little bit more of a hammer, a little bit more of a guy that's a physical runner that can get those short yards, get 2 yards when you need it. But they're flying high right now. I worry a lot less about Detroit and their break than I do with Kansas City because they had a competitive game in Week 18. And also, just because you're Dan Campbell, I may worry about them maybe being over aggressive, maybe being a little bit reckless, but I don't know if I ever worry about them not showing up when it's kickoff. Like, I'm not ever going to worry about a Dan Campbell team being unprepared and just not having the energy. And that building is going to be rocking. So we'll see how Jaden Daniels and the rest of that team is able to kind of handle all of that pressure. Pressure one week, okay, but you got to be able to do it again. I'm a huge Jaden Daniels fan. I thought he was going to be the best quarterback coming out of the draft, and he was fantastic against the Buccaneers. But this is a whole different ball of wax this Saturday night against the Detroit Lions. And listen, I kind of hope he does win because if you remember, we had our guy Mark Ryan from 97 won the ticket up in Detroit on the show this week, and he said he doesn't see a way that Washington can win this game. He thinks it's an unwinnable game for the Commanders. He also said if they do win, to tag freezing cold takes, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to tag freezing cold takes, and maybe that'll take off because we love to see upsets, right? We want to see the team that nobody thought was going to win come out on top, unless it was what we saw last week against Washington against the Buccaneers. So I take that back. 3 p.m. on Sunday, the Rams in Philly to take on the Eagles. Sean McVay put on an absolute masterclass, beating the Vikings in the wild card round. It's going to be a much steeper mountain to climb against Philadelphia. That LA pass rush is ferocious. Again, I said this earlier this week. It's amazing how good they are without Aaron Donald. We've seen this so many different times in sports where you lose a key part of your team, and then there's just a black hole in that area, whether it's that exact position, whether it's that position group. You just can't find a guy to duplicate that performance from that future Hall of Famer that has retired. But what did they do? They assessed that situation with numbers. They threw numbers at it, and they are just such a relentless group. And they made life a living hell for Sam Darnold and that Vikings defense. It's going to be different, though. Even though that pass rush tipped the scales in the favor against Minnesota, I don't think they're going to have the same success against a team that seemingly has had a great offensive line for 2 decades. A lot of people wanted to see Saquon break that record in Week 18, but I think holding him out was the right thing to do. This team has Super Bowl aspirations. They're not going after regular season milestones. It would have been nice for them to be able to kind of get it in the flow of the games, but this team, and especially after being so close just a couple of years ago, they're trying to get back to the Super Bowl, and in their mind, they're thinking, okay, we got some young studs on defense. Okay, we have some new players on offense, including Saquon Barkley, who is going to be a top 5 MVP. But you also have the maturation of some of these guys that have been here a couple years with Jalen and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, right? So they have to look at this opportunity going, hey, we saw how it ended last year against Tampa Bay. Let's get our shit together, man, because we got a really good chance to make the Super Bowl, if not win the damn thing. I think they start that journey on Sunday. Jalen Hurts, another week removed from the concussion. And I just think after giving up 255 yards to Saquon in their 37-20 loss to the Eagles in their regular season matchup back in November, I think we'll see something similar. I don't think it's going to be 250 yards, but just think about it. Even if he rushes for half of that, he's still rushing for $120. Give me Philadelphia 30-17 in this game. I think that the Eagles come out on top in this one. But would I be surprised if the Rams win? No, because I think Sean McVay is the best coach in the game. And I know some people will say Andy Reid, and we're not talking. I mean, Sean McVay won a Super Bowl, so he's in that conversation of the best coaches right now. But every single year, it seems like people write off LA. I don't know. Can they do it? Stafford's a year older. They don't have Aaron Donald, right? Cooper Kupp's not the same guy that won the Triple Crown a couple years ago. Okay, What does that matter? When you have a good coach, even those guys went down due to injury earlier this year, and they kept their season afloat. And now you look at it, you look at Nakua, you look at Cooper Kupp, right? You look at Kyron Williams in the backfield. You look at Fisk and Jared Verse. I mean, this is a team that, they are, it's us against the world mentality. And when you have a guy like Sean McVay, it's tough to go against him. If it's a close game, I might lean towards the Rams. That's why I gave it a 13-point deficit. I think that Philadelphia has more talent on both sides of the ball, and I think there's more ways than one that they can win. But if it's a close game and it comes down to coaching decisions, I'm going to have to lean to McVay over Sirianni. But we'll see how that one shakes out. And finally, the best game of the weekend, in my opinion, 6:30 Sunday night, Buffalo hosting Baltimore. Buckle up, boys and girls. This could be a classic. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think we're headed for a Ravens and Eagles matchup in the Super Bowl, but this game has the best chance to upset that. I know some people might say Detroit or Philadelphia, but there's just something about this Buffalo team. I woke up this morning, and this was the game that I was kind of sure on the first three games. But this one, I keep going back and forth. I keep thinking about Josh Allen and the Bills. And you're getting Bernard, you're getting Milano, you're getting Teron Johnson, guys that didn't play in their regular season matchup against the Ravens. And I like the knack for making big plays in big situations that Josh Allen has the ability. He puts that on display time and time again. And we've seen how they've come up short, but I don't know if they've ever come up short because of him, right? I know some people are going to come back and give me some certain numbers, but I think of certain games against the Chiefs, and it's like Josh Allen did all he could. A drop pass here, a fumble here, a lack of a defensive stop here. I don't know if we really looked at many of these games and go, man, it was on Josh Allen. Where on the other side, I think we've had a couple of games like that with Lamar. You look back at the AFC Championship game last year where I felt like Lamar was trying to prove a point. Lamar was like, everybody says I'm a running quarterback, and I'm going to prove that I'm going to be able to beat you in the pocket. And I'm yelling at the TV. I'm not a Baltimore fan. I'm not a Kansas City fan, but I'm yelling, Lamar, run. Do what has gotten you here. He's such an amazing player. MVP. Who cares what everybody else says? But quarterbacking is about accuracy and decision making. And that's part of the reason why Patrick Mahomes is number one. Is just because he's able to make the long throw, the medium throw, the short throw, but he makes great decisions. And it's not just about throwing the football. Sometimes it's about running. Sometimes it's about faking like you're going to go out of bounds and running for 40 yards. Patrick Mahomes may not have as many rushing yards week in and week out, but he'll have that one big rushing play that puts Kansas City in field goal range to set him up for the game winner, and then boom, they move on, or boom, they win the Super Bowl. That is the difference between Mahomes and Allen and Burrow and Lamar Jackson. As much as we want to talk about how they're a group of four, it's still Mahomes here. But how those other three guys make their decisions in games like this, these are legacy-defining performances. Because a team that is freaking really good is going to be going home Sunday night. A really good team. You're talking about two teams that when you watched in the regular season, you go, there's no way I want to play those teams in January. We're not even talking about the conference championship game. We're talking about the divisional round where you have the 12-5 Baltimore Ravens and the 13-4 Buffalo Bills going head to head. And I think you look at that Ravens 12-5 record, and it doesn't seem like, they were probably more dominant than what their record showed, because there were certain games and you go, shh, man, you can't beat those guys. Look no further than the point differential. Now, I don't think the point differential or the run differential or the goal differential is the end all be all. I don't know if that can really tell you when a team's kind of in the middle of the pack, because there's a lot more that goes into it. But I do think it can tell you on either end of the spectrum how good or a bad, how close some of these games were, whether they come out on top or they lose. Plus 157. It's crazy that they're identical, the Bills and the Ravens. So I think about this game, and I kept going back and forth, and I'd like to see Buffalo win a Super Bowl for all those people that have went through all of those years where they lost 4 in a row, they have a franchise quarterback. Everybody wrote him off after the season. They said it's Miami's time or the Jets' time, and you lose Stephon Diggs. So what are they going to do? And they're running the football. They run the football. They utilize the tight ends. Josh Allen makes so many good decisions. So when I woke up this morning, I really wanted to change my pick. I really wanted to pick the Buffalo Bills. But I just keep coming back to one thing and one thing only. And his name is Derrick Henry. Good luck tackling him in October. But you better pray to your Grammy when you have to try to tackle him outside in January. I think he's the difference maker. I think he's just an absolute hoss. And you can't just load up on him because Lamar's so damn good. He's got weapons on the outside. He's got two good tight ends. But even if they do load up the box, I mean, Derrick Henry is just such a beast. He's a monster. Baltimore in a thriller, 38-35. We saw Patrick Queen making business decisions last week. I wouldn't be surprised if certain defenders on Buffalo look at a guy like Derrick Henry and go, nah, I'm good. You can, no thanks. But that's going to be the best game. Sunday night, don't bother me. Don't bother me. Don't hit me up. Don't ask me to do any chores. No laundry. No dishwashing. Nothing. I'm going to be locked into Baltimore and Buffalo. 6:30 from up there in Orchard Park.